Hi guys, it's Izzy and today I'm going to be talking about, in my opinion, the best female friendships in books. These are quite hard to find. A lot of the time women don't really interact that much. There's a lot of female characters, like female protagonists, that are like counted as a strong character but then proceed to only interact with men. And if there are female relationships, they tend to be quite catty, I guess. There's a lot of arguments, a lot of jealousy, a lot of hatred towards other girls. So I love it when I find a book that just has a really strong, lovely female friendship. And I'm going to be recommending some of those books today because I think everyone should read them. So the first book I'm going to talk about is Wonder Woman by Leigh Bardugo. This book is about Diana from Themyscira, who is Wonder Woman. She lives on Themyscira with all her, surrounded by Amazon warriors who are all female, which is, so we're off to a good start already with the solid female relationships. A girl called Alia is washed up on the shores of Themyscira. Diana takes care of her, looks after her, and then goes on a quest with her, which takes place in New York City. Alia is a warbringer, which means she's destined to bring about an age of war and bloodshed, so they go on a quest to try and stop this. Alia and Diana's relationship is wonderful, like the name, and it was just such a joy to read from the perspective. They both get a point of view, and I loved both of them separately, and together they were just so their friendship literally made me tear up like multiple times because it was just so lovely. There's a quote in it that is, "Sister in battle, I am shield and blade to you. As I breathe, your enemies will know no sanctuary. While I live, your cause is mine." And that, every time they said that, I was like, oh, way to get me, Leigh Bardugo. Like, whew, that was a lot. But I love this book and I love the female friendship in it. It's definitely one of the best female friendships that I've read about. The next book I want to talk about is The Lady's Guide to Petticoat and Piracy by Mackenzie Lee. This is the sequel or sort of companion novel to A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. Monty was the main character in A Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue, and he went on a quest alongside his sister Felicity, and Felicity is the main character of The Lady's Guide to Petticoats and Piracy. Felicity has always wanted to be a doctor, but this takes place in, I believe, the 1800s, and so being a doctor is obviously not a woman's place in that period, so she is being rejected from every school she attempts to apply to, but then she finds this man who she believes will take her on as like an intern sort of situation, but he lives in Germany, so she goes on a quest to find this doctor so she can follow her dreams of being a doctor, and along the way she meets two women, Joanna and Sim, and they end up on a quest in search for a magical creature. So gets a bit derailed. The doctor plan gets a bit derailed by magical creatures. So this is a delightful book as is. I believe quite a lot of people didn't like it, but I personally loved it, and especially the female relationships in it. Felicity really goes on a journey in this book in the way she views other females, because she's a doctor. She's really internalized a lot of the misogyny, and that comes out in the way she views other women. She sort of believes she's not like other girls. She holds girls to standards that the general world holds them to, and she believes that you can't be a strong female if you're into like dresses or like makeup or you know, any of the traditionally girly things, and she really tries to separate herself from those sort of girls and, you know, puts herself in a different category from those, you know, really leans into the I'm not like other girls sort of thing. But she goes through such a great character arc in this book. She really learns that she can't really advocate for women while looking down on a lot of women, and she really learns a lot, and she really develops some really meaningful relationships with Sim and Joanna, and that was just really lovely to see Felicity learn that you can advocate for women and still hold a lot of that misogyny that you've heard in the world inside, and the way you view women can really be affected by that. But Felicity shows that you can learn and you can change and you can develop some really wonderful relationships along the way. So I loved this book, and it was there were just so many great female characters, and the relationships between them all were just fantastic. So I really loved this book. The next book I'm going to talk about is The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed. This is a book about three girls, Grace, Rosina and Erin. They are together at a school. Grace has just moved into town, and she's moved into a house that a girl used to live in who was raped and was not believed by the rest of the town and had to move because of that. So when Grace finds this out, she is shocked and horrified that this girl was forced to leave town because of that. And she, along with Rosina and Erin, start a club called the Nowhere Girls that advocate for women in the school and really just want to get justice for this girl who was raped and really was pushed out by society. These girls form such a wonderful bond. It really makes them into a team advocating for something that means a lot to all of them. This is a very diverse book as well. Erin has autism, Rosina is Hispanic and a lesbian, and Grace is the daughter of a pastor. So yeah, they all have really different views and really different things that mean more to them than others, and they just form this group that really helps other women and really ends up helping them as well. I just love this book. This is one of my all-time favourite books in terms of feminism and female characters and female relationships. It's just, I literally wouldn't have changed a thing. It was the perfect book, and the relationships warmed my heart. They just formed such a special bond, and it was wonderful. The next book I'm going to talk about is Three Dark Crowns by Kendara Blake. This book definitely has a different dynamic to it. This is a book about an island that is a matriarchy. It's only run by queens, and every time a queen is finishing her reign, she gives birth to triplets, one from each. There's three different sections on the island, one for elementalists, one for naturalists, and one for poisoners. So Mirabella is a elementalist, Catherine is a poisoner, and Arsinoe is a naturalist, and they have to fight to the death so that one queen remains standing, I think it's 16. So that's what this book starts off with. I personally didn't really like Three Dark Crowns, but I really loved the second book, and that's where we really start to see some interesting female relationships. This does have a good female friendship to start off with. Arsinoe has a best friend called Jude, and they have a really, really close bond, and they're very supportive and loving with each other. They would do anything for each other, you know, they would give their life for each other, and that is a really lovely friendship. Obviously the sisters are fighting in this book, fighting to the death more specifically, so that throws a few curveballs into their relationship, but into the second book and the third book, the sisterly bond really starts to come into play, and it's really interesting to see the different dynamics that come about when the sisters start to look at each other as sisters, as friends, instead of as enemies, which they have been told to view each other as. And I think that's a really interesting dynamic, because they have to change so much to form these relationships, because they have to change their whole worldview in order to build those relationships, and I think it's wonderful and I love it, and I can't wait to see how their relationships end up in the final books. I love it. And also, if you didn't like the first book, I do recommend persevering to the second book, because it really picked up for me, and there's definitely a lot more female relationships in that one, which I really loved. So yeah, great relationship. Very interesting relationships in this one. The next book I'm going to talk about is Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand. This is one of my all-time favourite books. I read it in October and I still think about it daily. I am obsessed with this book. I just want everyone to read it. This book just blew me out of the water. I love it. I literally think about it all the time because it was just such a fascinating book and it was just incredible. This is a book about an island called Sawkill Rock, and a new girl called Marion moves into town, and she discovers that women constantly go missing in this town and are never found, and along the way we learn that there is a very dark creature on the island who is stealing and killing girls, and it's becoming a lot more frequent, and so the island is a lot more dangerous. There's 3 main girls in this: Marion, who is the new girl to town, Zoe, who is the daughter of the police chief, and then there is also Val, who is sort of the classic queen bee mean girl sort of character, and they sort of team up together to try and find out what's happening. They all have very interesting separate storylines, but coming together, their friendship and what they can do with each other, they make each other so much more powerful, so much more brave, so much stronger in who they are, and also physically. There is also a female-female relationship between 2 of them, which I loved, but generally just the female camaraderie, and also they do go through a lot of self-reflection on the way they also view women, and really learn a lot throughout the book, and really come together and have just a wonderful friendship. I feel like that's the only thing I'm saying in this. I just love all of them. All of the friendships are just so wonderful, and I just want to read about them forever. I mean, there's not much else you can say apart from they're wonderful. So my vocabulary is very small today. And one of my favourite quotes from this book is, "Girls hunger, and we're taught from the moment our brains can take it that there isn't enough food for us all." And I feel like that was a very poignant line, a line that really stuck out to me, because that is the way sort of females are brought up, to show that you have to fight with other females to get what you want. And I think this book did a really great job of breaking that down and showing that, females make each other stronger rather than seeing them as the enemy. Same with 3 Dark Crowns, and it was fantastic. And literally just read this book anyway because I'm obsessed with it. Same with the Nowhere Girls. Those are 2 of my favourite books of all time, so read them now. The final book I'm going to talk about is To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. This is more of sisterly relationships, but since they're all girls I figured it would count, and I do love really good sister relationships. They're my favourite because I love my sister, and I really love seeing just really strong sisterly bonds instead of seeing them fight and hate each other. I don't really like that. I mean, sometimes that's alright. In 3 Dark Crowns, they want to kill each other, so, I just like development, But this is a book about a girl called Lara Jean. She has 2 sisters, Margot and Kitty. She writes love letters to all the boys she's had crushes on. Once she decides she's finished with a crush, she writes them one final letter and puts it in a hat box and leaves it there. But one day her letters somehow get sent out, and all the boys suddenly know that she loved them. So causes a lot of awkward situations. But what I really love about this book is Lara Jean's relationship with her 2 sisters. They love each other so much. It's just so lovely to see. Lara Jean really looks after her little sister Kitty. They don't have a mum, so they really have to look out for each other. After their mum died, they've been protecting each other and raising each other and teaching each other. I mean, they do have a dad, but they've really just learned from each other and really developed as sort of a trio. and I just love this book. This has a second and third book, all which have lovely sisterly relationships. There are fights, of course, because there are always fights in every relationship ever, but they are done really well, they are resolved, they have communication, they just want to love each other all the time, and I really like that, because they want to solve arguments, because they don't want to fight with their sisters, they just want to be there for each other all the time, and I really appreciate that. So yeah, another book that's just like one of my favourites of all time, but also has great female relationships, so I definitely recommend. That is all for my female friendship recommendations. If you have any more, let me know down below, because I am always on the search for wonderful relationships between girls. We don't see them enough, and I just want to read them all the time. So thank you so much for watching. I'll leave all my links down below, and I will see you next time. Bye!